an amazing motivational speaker, an author, a journalist, a very powerful speaker, Mr. HINDOL SENGUPTA, amongst us. A great historian. Got to spend about 5-10 minutes with him, and his knowledge of history is a walking encyclopedia, is what I can say. Sir, about YI, we are 42 chapters in the country today. It's an integral part of CII for the young entrepreneurs, young professionals from different walks of life between the age of 25 and 40. Coimbatore is one of the largest chapters in the country with 240 members. We have 15 UVA colleges. We have students from various colleges here today to listen to you. We've all been following you on YouTube. As I mentioned earlier, we very badly want to listen to you here live today. We are going live on YouTube as well. I'd like to welcome, extend a very warm welcome on behalf of YI Coimbatore, Mr. HINDOL. A very warm welcome to all the UVA students present here. Thank you all for making it. Without further delay, I think we're running late. I request Raghulan to come forward and quickly introduce the speaker to the audience, please.
Good evening, one and all. Mr. HINDOL SENGUPTA is an award-winning author, and he has written 8 books. He's been published in the United States, UK, and India, among other countries. In 2018, he has won the prestigious Wilbur Award, instituted by the Religious Communicators Council of America, for Being Hindu, Understanding a Peace Path in the Violent World, the first book on Hinduism to do so. He's been awarded PSF Prize for Public Service in India in 2015. His book, Recasting India, How Entrepreneurship is Revolutionizing the World's Largest Democracy, was shortlisted in 2015 for the Hayek Prize, given by the Manhattan Institute in the memory of the economist and Nobel laureate, F.A. Hayek. Sengupta is the World Economic Forum Global Leader, Young Global Leader, and a Knight Behot Fellow at the Columbia University. He's been a journalist at the Indian editions of Fortune Magazine, Bloomberg TV, CNN, and CNBC. He's the founder of Global Solutions Journalism Platform Grin. We take pleasure in welcoming Mr. HINDOL SENGUPTA. Stage is yours.
Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be with CIIYI. I last did a whole tour with you guys with Recasting India a few years ago, and I'm very happy to be back here with you. I want to talk to you a little bit about why we are Indians, why we should be Indians, why we are, what does that really mean, and why we even bother about something called nationality, and what does that have to do with running vast organizations and this elusive concept everybody talks about but nobody really understands, called leadership. And I'm going to talk about all those subjects: nationality, nationalism, leadership, management, through the prism of a great movement called the national movement. That's how we all won freedom as Indians. And through the life and work of one man called Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Many of you would have heard about Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. He, of course, was the first Deputy Prime Minister and the first Home Minister of India. And he's the man, of course, in whose memory a vast and giant statue is now coming up in Gujarat. I've just written a book about him. It's called The Man Who Saved India. And I want to begin by talking to you about why he is important to everything that you do today. Everything that you do today is on a geography, literally on a map. At this very moment, we are standing on one little corner of that map. That map, of course, is something that you have seen all your life. It's the map of India. In that map of India that you have grown up with, all of you have grown up with, that map of India was actually not really there before 1947. It was a deeply divided map if you were to look at the map of India before 1947. There was British India, which was ruled by the British, and then there was a whole collection of what we used to call the princely states. The princely states, of course, was ruled by local Rajas, Maharajas, Nizams, and Nawabs, the local princely rulers of each area. Now that varied from large states like Jodhpur and Udaipur and Hyderabad to very tiny states like Kuch Bihar and so on and so forth. It is Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel who painstakingly put one state after the other and knit together, brought together what we see as the map of India today. He brought together the princely states of India and merged them with British India in a gigantic process called the integration of Indian states. It's a very unique thing because remember, when this more than 70-year-old man was going around doing this almost impossible task, he was actually literally dying. Because only a few months literally after that, in 1950, by the end of 1950, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel actually died. Now he, at that time, was very unwell too. His body had been completely broken because he had been the head of the Ahmedabad municipality during a major plague attack on the city. And Sardar Patel, showcasing, I believe, exemplary leadership, did not run away from Ahmedabad when plague came to that city. He believed that it was his responsibility as the head of the municipality to be there and oversee fighting that plague. So what did he do? In the midst of pouring rain often, in the middle of the night, in the time of plague, at that time, even if people heard the word plague, they would run away from that place. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel stayed in Ahmedabad and would go from door to door to door, checking on what kind of plague relief has been given to people. This, in my mind, is one of the most exemplary characteristics of a leader. What is a leader? A leader is someone who does not run away. I think one of the greatest definitions of a leader is a person who does not run away. Because every time calamity comes, every time problems arrive, it's the easiest thing to run away. It's the easiest thing to pass the blame downstream, so to speak, as we would say in the corporate world. You blame everybody who's under you, right? You take the blame downstream. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel never took the blame downstream. He took it on his chin and he did not run away. He thought it was his responsibility to go from door to door in that plague-ridden city and provide relief. Because of that, and then after that his long jail stints, which the British put him in jail, his body broke down completely. And even then, he took the courage and he had the stamina to go from state to state across India, convincing, with his assistant VP Menon, convincing the Rajas and Maharajas and Nawabs and the Nizam to really be part of independent India. Now, once this entire process had happened, there was a great Soviet leader who came to India. And that great Soviet leader was astonished when he came to India that how had this process of bringing towards all these noble royal families into this democratic setup happened without bloodshed. In fact, he said that it is only in India that they can do this, or people can do this, without killing all the Rajas and Maharajas. Because in Russia, there would be massive civil war and bloodshed. And he admired the fact that in India, purely through the values of persuasion, non-violent values of persuasion and negotiation, state after state could have been brought together. Remember, many of these princely dynasties stretched their legacy back to maybe 1,000 years. They had long histories of ruling their entire, princely states and their kingdoms. And yet, they decided to, in a sense, give up much of that control and come together in this democratic new country called India in the constitutional framework because of the negotiation skills of Sardar Patel. Now, negotiation skills, as you know, is another very vital part of leadership. Leadership is about negotiating your way through a tough point. And Sardar Patel had the ability to negotiate with really difficult people who did not want to give him what he wanted. There is that wonderful story when one prince, one of the Rajas, held a gun to the head of Sardar Patel's aide or assistant, saying that you should leave my kingdom, you should leave my capital, because I'm not going to sign the accession letter for you. And the assistant really smiled at this king and said, well, you can shoot me, but you would still have to talk to Sardar Patel. And at that point, the prince was so worried and frightened of Sardar Patel that he dropped the gun and agreed to sign. In a curious way, all these powerful people with, arms of their own and platoons of their own and armies, private armies of their own, were scared of the determination of this one old man. And that, to me, is an exemplary, example, so to speak, of nation building, because here is a man who does not possess great arms, who's being threatened that he would be killed, but through the sheer determination of his will is able to convince this vast number of people that they should come together because it is for the good of India. That is an exemplary idea of how non-violent negotiation in the most difficult circumstances can come together. It is Sardar Patel, of course, who warned India not to take the Kashmir issue to the Security Council. Even when it went to the UN Security Council, Sardar Patel gave a series of speeches and lectures where he said that, look, this was probably a bad idea. India should have bilaterally solved the Kashmir issue. And yet, India didn't, clearly. And that, Sardar Patel later said, meant that the solutions that India could have applied got dragged on, and of course, as we know, even today we have not been able to solve the protracted and difficult problem that some of the Kashmir negotiations bring onto our table. This problem has stayed. In 1950, at the end of 1950, in December 15, Sardar Patel died. Before that, he wrote 2 letters, and here's the other great idea of nation building. Nation building is not only about putting geographies together, it is also about being prescient. You see a problem before the problem arrives. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel left 2 great letters. One he wrote to Jawaharlal Nehru, the other he wrote to Girija Shankar Bajpai, and he explained what he thought were problematic areas